Tonight, you and I are going somewhere far beyond the maps. A place built on ice, silence, and the faint hum of memory. They called it Frosthaven, a city of light that burned inside the cold. Some say it never existed. Others swear the sea still whispers its name when the wind dies. But what if it wasn't just a legend? What if every wave still remembers the warmth of human hands that built, dreamed, and endured beneath endless winter skies? Close your eyes now. Hear the snow breathing. Feel the old world fading away. You're not just listening to a story tonight, you're stepping into one. This is Frosthaven. Soft pause. A story about survival, memory, and the long echo of light. Told slowly for those who are ready to drift into sleep. And remember what the world once sang. The sea smells different when you're leaving everything behind. It's colder, sharper, as if the salt itself carries a warning. The ship groans against the ice-packed water, its hull old but steady, its chimney coughing black smoke into the pale northern sky. You stand on the deck, gloved hands gripping the frozen railing, watching the last hints of green disappear behind you, the south fading into memory. They call this the last southbound ship, though it's heading north. The name is a joke among sailors, a cruel one. Once you board it, there's no south to return to. No ports, no trade, no world left warm enough to remember your name. Ahead lies Frosthaven, a colony built on the edge of the known world, a place where the wind has teeth and the earth bleeds light. You came because of a rumor. Everyone did. White fire, or they said, metal that burns without consuming itself, light that never fades. One fragment could power a city, or rebuild a fallen world. Maybe it was greed that drew you here. Maybe it was grief. Maybe, if you're honest, you simply had nowhere else to go. The sea narrows between jagged cliffs, black as iron. Icebergs drift like silent cathedrals, their edges catching the thin sun. Somewhere below deck, the engines thrum, a mechanical heartbeat against the cold vastness. You close your eyes and feel it through your boots, the steady pulse of survival. A sailor named Brand passes by, face wrapped in wool, eyes bright with frostbite's gleam. First time north? He asks. You nod. Then remember this, he says. Up there, the cold doesn't just take your fingers. It takes your thoughts first. He taps his temple, then moves on, whistling something tuneless. The sound vanishes into the wind. You stare over the railing again. Ice drifts closer, scraping the hull. The captain's voice barks orders from the bridge. Ilara Voss, one of the few women to command an Arctic line. They say she's seen storms that made men pray to gods they didn't believe in. Her silhouette stands sharp against the white horizon. She doesn't look afraid. You envy that. Night doesn't fall here. It slides in sideways like smoke. The sea turns to glass, reflecting the first glimmer of the northern lights. Green ribbons twist across the sky, ghost fire. You watch them dance and wonder if it's the same sky your wife once looked at far to the south before the sickness took her. You whisper her name, but the wind swallows it whole. The cold deepens. You retreat below deck. Inside, the air smells of tar, wool, and bodies too close together. Miners, carpenters, dreamers, all chasing the same phantom. A man plays harmonica softly, the melody small against the ship's endless groan. You close your eyes and let the sound drift through you. How long has it been since music didn't sound like memory? Later, unable to sleep, you climb back to the deck. The world is utterly still. The ship cuts through a mirror of frozen stars. The horizon glows faintly, Frosthaven's beacon, or perhaps just another mirage. You remember the advertisement back in the southern ruins? A new beginning beneath the lights. Work, food, and future for those brave enough. You almost laugh. Brave enough, or desperate enough? A gull, impossibly far north, circles overhead, then vanishes into the dark. The sight fills you with something you can't name. Hope maybe. Or fear. They taste the same, don't they? Below the rail, the ice breaks with a deep crack like thunder. You watch the shards drift apart, glimmering in the ship's lantern light. For a moment, you imagine their continents, fragments of the old world you're leaving behind, floating away into the sea. Someone calls your name. You turn. It's Ilara Voss herself, coat buttoned to her throat, breath forming crystals in the air. We'll reach the inlet by dawn, she says. Frosthaven's expecting new hands. I hope yours are steady. Yes, ma'am, you reply. Her eyes linger a moment. Keep them warm too. The north has a habit of stealing what's useful. She walks away, boots crunching frost. The deck creaks. You breathe in the air, thin, metallic, laced with anticipation. You can already feel the land ahead pulling at you, silent and immense. Would you have followed such a promise too? Would you have boarded this ship, chasing light into the cold? The horizon glows brighter now, a pale arc of gold against endless white. The sea is hardening beneath you. The world holds its breath. And as the engines slow, you realize that the journey north has ended. And the true voyage, the one inside you, is just beginning. Dawn arrives without color, only light. A pale shimmer spread across the horizon like the reflection of something long forgotten. You step out onto the deck again, boots crunching frost, breath clouding before your face. The sea has turned to a frozen plain, the ship cutting through it like a tired animal through snowdrifts. Around you, the world feels older than memory. Someone shouts from the bow, "Land ahead." But land feels like the wrong word. The coastline rising from the fog isn't land, it's a wall of ice, blue and vast, ridged like the spine of some sleeping creature. Frosthaven lies beyond that wall, at the edge of what the maps once called Terra Noctis, the land of night. Captain Alara Voss stands near the helm, coat flapping in the sharp wind. Her voice carries through the thin air. Prepare to dock. Engines down to half. Crew members rush to obey, boots clanging against iron. The sound echoes strangely in the stillness, swallowed by the ice before it fades. You grip the rail as the ship pushes through narrow channels, the hull scraping softly against frozen ridges. You can see figures on the shore now, bundled in furs, faces hidden, lanterns swaying like captive stars. They stand beside sleds and steam-driven haulers, ready to unload cargo. It's hard to tell where the ice ends and the settlement begins. Wooden cabins, half buried in snow, connected by rope bridges and tunnels of canvas. Smoke curls weakly from chimneys, only to be torn apart by the wind. A sign carved into whalebone marks the harbor, Frosthaven, humanity's northernmost frontier. The letters are nearly lost beneath frost. When the ship finally stops, the silence is sudden. No waves, no gulls, only the creak of frozen ropes and the sound of your heartbeat. You step down the gangplank carefully, the boards slick with ice. The cold hits like a blow. Your lungs seize, your eyelashes stiffen. It feels like stepping onto another planet. A woman approaches, tall, lean, wrapped in wolf fur. A pistol rests on her belt, a map tube slung across her back. Her eyes, gray as the sea, meet yours without a word. "Alara Voss," she says simply, offering a gloved hand. "Welcome to Frosthaven, carpenter. You'll find the air here honest at least." You shake her hand. It's colder than the metal at your hip. "What kind of work do you need done?" you ask, voice muffled through scarf and frost. "Doors, roofs, warmth," she answers. "Everything here breaks, and we keep rebuilding. That's the rhythm of this place." You follow her along a narrow path between the cabins. The snow underfoot crunches like shattered glass. Each building you pass tells a story. One sagging under the weight of ice, another patched with scavenged metal, another simply abandoned. A man steps out of a workshop, goggles frozen to his forehead. "Alara. Engine room needs sealing again. Steam's bleeding out." "That's Merrick," she explains. "Engineer, philosopher, pessimist. You'll be working with him most days." Merrick gives you a nod, his beard rimed with frost. "Another southerner chasing the white fire dream, eh? Don't worry, you'll lose that glow soon enough." He gestures toward the center of the colony where a tall tower rises, its beacon flickering faintly. That's the core light. Runs on Whitefire, Oregon. Without it, we'd all freeze in a week. You pause to watch the beacon shimmer, a pale flame trapped inside a glass chamber. The light hums, almost alive, pulsing with a rhythm that echoes faintly in your chest. For a moment, you feel warmth, not physical but something deeper, like hope disguised as machinery. Alara notices you staring. It's beautiful, isn't it? Almost makes you forget how dangerous it is. You glance at her. Dangerous how? Whitefire burns hotter than any known fuel. Burns through engines, through people. Handle it wrong and it turns you to ash faster than you can blink. Her tone is matter-of-fact, as if describing the weather. Inside the main hall, the air is slightly warmer, though it still smells of oil, iron, and wet wool. Men and women gather around a massive stove, trading stories in low voices. A few look up as you enter, not unfriendly, just measuring. Everyone here has the same look in their eyes, hunger and endurance sharing one body. Elara hands you a small tin cup of something steaming. You'll stay in the West Wing. Work starts tomorrow. You'll be paid in or credits until the thaw. You take a sip. The drink tastes like burnt roots, but it's hot, and that's enough. How long until the thaw? She smiles, tired but genuine. Depends on whether the sun remembers us this year. That night, you lie in a cot beneath heavy blankets. The walls creak. Outside, the wind howls like a living thing. You can hear it dragging snow across the roofs, clawing at doors, testing the seams of this fragile outpost. Somewhere below, engines hum to keep the lights alive. Above, the aurora drifts, pale ribbons in an endless black sky. You wonder what it would take for a person to belong in a place like this. You wonder if you ever will. Would you? Could you find warmth at the edge of the world? As you close your eyes, the light from the core tower flickers through the window, casting moving shadows on the ceiling. They sway gently like ghosts, like the memories you thought you left behind. The first thing you learn in Frosthaven is that silence isn't empty. It's alive. It moves through the halls, breathes through the cracks in the walls, hums in the pipes at night. When you wake before dawn, though here, dawn is only a lighter shade of darkness, the silence is already waiting, patient as the ice. You rise slowly, boots stiff with frost. The floorboards creak under your feet like brittle bones. No voices yet. No hammering from the workshops. Only the faint hiss of the heating vents, the sigh of the wind pressing against the shutters. The quiet has weight. You feel it settle on your shoulders as you pull on your coat. Outside, the world holds still. The horizon glows faintly blue, a cold bruise of light. Smoke rises in thin ribbons from chimneys, each trail frozen midair, unmoving until the wind decides to claim it. You walk past the sleeping cabins toward the carpenter's shed, your breath forming small ghosts that vanish instantly. The sound of your footsteps seems too loud here, like breaking a spell. Merrick is already at work, tightening bolts on a broken valve. His movements are slow but certain, like someone who's made peace with the cold. "Morning," you say. He grunts in response, then adds after a moment, "You'll get used to it." The silence. It's louder than people think. You nod, though you're not sure you ever will. He glances up, eyes pale and rimmed red from the cold. You hear it long enough, it starts whispering back. You smile faintly. What does it say? Merrick shrugs. Depends what you're afraid of. You spend the morning repairing door frames warped by frost, hammering quietly so the nails don't snap in the cold. Each strike echoes through the wood like a heartbeat. The rhythm is comforting, a small defiance against the stillness pressing in from all sides. Outside, Elara's voice cuts through the wind, giving orders about supply logs and steam pressure. The sound fades quickly, swallowed by the snow. Around noon, the sky brightens for a brief moment, a pale, silver wash that could almost be called daylight. You step outside to stretch, the cold burning your lungs like smoke. The air smells faintly of oil, pine, and something metallic you can't quite name. You look toward the ice cliffs beyond the colony and imagine what lies past them, endless white, perhaps, or nothing at all. Would you ever walk that far just to know where the silence ends? Back inside, Merrick lights a small brazier. The orange glow flickers across his worn face, making the shadows dance like ghosts along the walls. I came here thinking I'd get rich, he says suddenly, breaking hours of quiet. Now I'd settle for hearing rain again. You pause, unsure how to respond. Rain, such a small, simple thing. The memory feels like a dream. I used to love the sound of it on a tin roof, you say softly. He nods, eyes distant. Here all we get is wind. And the wind lies. Evening comes early. You finish the day's work by lamplight, the glow from the core tower faintly pulsing outside the frosted window. As you gather your tools, you hear something strange, a low, resonant hum beneath the floor. It's not the engine. It's deeper, slower, like the sound of the earth itself turning in its sleep. Merrick looks up sharply. You hear that? You nod. Pressure shift, he mutters. The ice moves under us sometimes. Don't worry. Just the world remembering it's alive. Later you walk alone to the mess hall. The corridor lights flicker weakly, casting halos on the frozen walls. Your reflection follows you in the frost-covered windows, a blur of fur, breath, and shadow. Inside, a few workers sit hunched over bowls of soup, eating in silence. The only sound is the clink of spoons against metal. You join them, grateful for the warmth, though the food tastes like dust. After dinner, Elara joins your table. She doesn't speak right away. She doesn't need to. Her presence is steady, grounding, like the low hum of the core. Finally, she says, "Most people don't last their first winter. Not because of hunger or cold. Because of this." She gestures at the quiet around you. Silence wears you down. You start hearing your own thoughts too clearly. And most of us don't like what they say. You study her face, lines carved by wind, eyes lit faintly by the lamplight. There's exhaustion there, yes, but also something unbreakable. "What about you?" you ask. She smiles faintly. "I made peace with the silence a long time ago. Sometimes it's the only honest thing left." You return to your quarters that night with her words echoing in your mind. You sit on your cot, listening. The wind moans through the beams. Pipes rattle softly. Then beneath it all, a deep, low tone. Almost human. Almost kind. You don't know if it's the ice or something older listening back. You whisper into the dark, "Are you there?" No answer, or maybe there is, too quiet to hear. Would you be afraid of silence like this? Or would you learn to live inside it? You lie back, closing your eyes. The world narrows to breath, heartbeat, and the faint rhythm of the frost shifting outside. The silence presses close, heavy, patient, alive. And you fall asleep wondering which of you will speak first. At first, you think warmth comes from the fire. You learn quickly that it doesn't. Fire burns fast in Frosthaven. It eats wood like hunger eats hope. What truly keeps the cold away is work. The rhythm of your hands. The hum of tools. The sound of creation in a world built on decay. The carpenters shed smells of pine resin and oil. Each morning you step inside, stamping snow from your boots, and the scent greets you like an old friend. Sawdust gathers on the floor like yellow snow. The stove in the corner glows weakly, barely enough to thaw your fingers before you begin. You breathe into your gloves, feeling the air turn to fog. Merrick enters behind you, carrying a plank of warped timber. "New shipment from the southern docks," he mutters. "Half of it's useless." You take the wood, running your fingers along its cracks. "We'll make it work." He grins, a flash of warmth in the cold light. That's the Frosthaven spirit. You measure. Cut. Sand. The rhythm begins, soft and steady like breathing. Each strike of your hammer rings against the silence, not breaking it but shaping it. The walls around you feel less like confinement, more like shelter. The workshop becomes a heartbeat in the frozen body of the colony. Sometimes Elara stops by. She doesn't say much, only stands by the stove, watching. Her presence carries a kind of gravity, silent command mixed with quiet fatigue. Once, she places a hand on a half-finished door frame and says, "Solid work. A good door means one more night survived." You nod, not knowing what to say. She turns to leave but pauses at the threshold. "We're building more than houses here," she adds softly. "We're building reasons to stay." Outside, the sun barely rises. Just a faint glow, enough to cast long blue shadows across the snow. You carry the new door to one of the older cabins, a structure leaning under the weight of the wind. The hinges creak as you remove the old slab of wood, its edges splintered and gray. Inside, an old man sits by a tiny stove wrapped in blankets. He looks up, eyes cloudy but kind. "New door?" he rasps. "Yes, sir. To keep the warmth in." He chuckles weakly. "Warmth's a funny thing. Never where you think it is." You fit the new door, sealing the gaps, smoothing the frame. When it closes, the sound is clean, a soft click that feels final, satisfying. The old man tests it, nods. "Better already. You're a craftsman, aren't you?" You smile. "Trying to be." He leans back. "Keep building." Wood remembers the hands that shape it. You leave him with a quiet sense of peace, your breath misting in the air. The wind outside howls, but it no longer feels hostile. Just alive. That evening, the workers gather in the common hall, a rare thing born of necessity. A barrel stove glows in the center, surrounded by benches. Merrick is tuning a makeshift fiddle built from scrap and wire. Someone passes around a tin of hot tea that tastes faintly of iron and herbs. For the first time you hear laughter, thin, hesitant, but real. Elara enters, snow on her shoulders. "We've survived another week," she says simply. No speech, no ceremony. Just truth. Someone raises a cup. "To the builders," another adds, "and to the ones who still believe there's something worth building." You find yourself smiling before you realize it. The fire pops, sparks rising like fireflies. Merrick begins to play, slow, uneven notes that drift through the hall like memory. And for a brief, impossible moment, you forget the cold. You close your eyes, feeling the warmth spread, not from the stove, not from the wood, but from the sound of people breathing in unison, the murmur of quiet conversation, the shared heartbeat of survival. You wonder if this is what home feels like. Not a place, but a rhythm you recognize. Later, as you step outside, the aurora stretches across the sky, green ribbons flowing between stars. Frosthaven glows faintly below, a cluster of light in the endless dark. Smoke from the chimneys rises straight into the still air. The world feels fragile but alive. You think of the old man and his words. Wood remembers the hands that shape it. Maybe the same is true for people. Would you have found warmth here too, in the sound of a hammer, the glow of a stove, the laughter of strangers who refuse to give up? You walk back to your cabin, the snow creaking beneath your boots. Behind you, the lights of Frosthaven shimmer against the frozen horizon. Ahead, the night waits, cold but no longer empty. By the time the third week arrives, the cold feels less like weather and more like a presence. A quiet intelligence pressing its will into every wall, every lung. It seeps through the seams of your gloves, whispers through the floorboards, finds you no matter how many layers you wear. The North has patience. It always wins. That morning, Alara calls a meeting in the main hall. You stand among a dozen others, breath fogging in the dim light. The stove burns low, a single eye of orange in the center of the room. Outside, the wind screams against the wooden walls, desperate to be let in. Alara's voice cuts through the noise, calm but sharp. Last night, she says, one of ours didn't make it back from the Ore Ridge. She doesn't say his name, but everyone knows. Garvey, the quartermaster's assistant, too fond of whiskey and long walks under auroras. We found him this morning, half buried in snow outside the perimeter fence. The silence that follows is heavy enough to bend wood. Alara takes off her gloves, lays them on the table. This isn't the first. The cold doesn't forgive mistakes. So we'll make new rules. Rules that will keep us alive. She writes on a small slate board as she speaks, each word etched with the sound of chalk on frost. 1. No one walks alone after dark. 2. No one leaves the settlement without clearance. 3. Every door must close. Every latch must lock. Every fire must be fed. She looks up. If you see someone breaking these rules, you stop them. Even if they hate you for it. Understand? The crowd nods silently. You feel something tighten in your chest. Not fear, but recognition. The law of Frost isn't about control. It's about survival in a world that offers no second chances. Merrick mutters under his breath, cold makes kings out of practical people. You glance at him, but he's staring at Alara, not mocking, admiring maybe. Respect built from shared endurance. Later, as the others disperse, Alara stops you by the door. You're good with your hands, Jonas. I want you to inspect the outer locks. Any gaps in the boards, any hinges that freeze, fix them. We can't afford another mistake. Yes, ma'am. She gives a small nod, then adds quietly, the cold doesn't kill as fast as loneliness. Keep your people close. You spend the day walking the perimeter, testing latches, tightening bolts. Each door you touch feels like a promise. Fragile, human, defiant. The air bites harder the farther you move from the main camp. By mid-afternoon, your eyelashes are rimmed with ice. The world blurs between white and shadow. You find the spot where Garvey must have fallen, a half-buried shape under the snow, now covered with tarp. You don't lift it. You already know what's there. But you kneel anyway, brushing frost from a discarded glove nearby. The fingers are curled, as if reaching for something just beyond reach. Would you have gone outside that night too, chasing light you thought could warm you? You stand, pull your coat tight, and look out toward the ridges. The aurora dances even now, cruelly beautiful, shimmering green against black sky. They call it the fire of ghosts here. Some say it's the souls of those the cold took, still wandering above the ice. You can almost believe it. Back at the workshop, Merrick waits with a cup of boiled coffee. You find him. You shake your head. Just what's left. He sighs, rubs his beard. The North eats men whole, but it spits out lessons if you listen. You look up. And what's the lesson today? He smirks faintly. Don't trust warmth you didn't make yourself. That evening, you reinforced the hinges on the west gate with iron bands. Your hands ache, fingers stiff, but the rhythm steadies you. The sound of hammer on metal echoes through the dark like a slow heartbeat. Ilara passes by, checking lamps along the corridor. "Good work," she says softly. "Each nail is one more breath we get to keep." Night falls early, swallowing the colony whole. You return to your cabin, light a small lamp, and sit by the window. Snow drifts in thin veils across the glass. Beyond the faint glow of Frosthaven's lamps, there is only blackness, deep, infinite, waiting. Somewhere out there lies Garvey, frozen beneath a sheet of white, one more name in the North's endless ledger. You whisper a small prayer you don't believe in. The lamp flickers. The wind presses against the door, testing its strength. You glance at the latch, solid, firm. You build it yourself. Would you sleep easier knowing that the door could hold? Or would you still listen for the sound of the cold knocking? You close your eyes, the hum of the court tower deep and steady in the distance. The law of frost has been written, not in ink but in the breath of those still alive. And as the night stretches on, you feel the weight of it settle into your bones. Here, survival isn't a right. It's an agreement, one you must keep every single day. The wind dies without warning. One moment it screams through the eaves and the next it's gone. A silence so pure it feels almost deliberate, like the world has paused to listen. Merrick notices it first. He's crouched by the furnace, tightening a valve when he glances up and says, "The pressure's dropped. The air feels wrong." You step outside with him, boots sinking into snow that glitters faintly in the dim twilight. The sky is cloudless, a sheet of dark blue glass. Beneath your feet, the ground hums softly, a vibration you can feel more than hear. It runs up your legs, into your chest, like the steady pulse of something enormous sleeping under the ice. "White fire veins," Merrick murmurs. "Close to the surface tonight." You frown. "I thought the mine entrances were sealed for the season." "They are," he says with a grin that looks far too alive for this cold. "But the ice moves. The earth shifts. Sometimes the north opens itself for a moment, just long enough for the brave or the foolish to look inside." He hands you a lantern and starts walking toward the ridge. You hesitate, then follow. The colony fades behind you, swallowed by shadow. Each step creaks through layers of frost and hidden water. Your breath fogs and freezes midair, drifting behind like smoke from a dying fire. When you reach the ridge, Merrick kneels by a crack in the ice no wider than your arm. Warm air seeps from it, ghostly and shimmering. He lowers the lantern and the light touches something below, something glowing back. You both freeze. Beneath the ice, the earth is alive with light. Threads of pale gold and white twist through the darkness like veins in translucent skin. The glow shifts and flickers, not steady but pulsing, rhythmic, almost breathing. The sight steals your words. "White fire," Merrick whispers. His voice trembles, not from cold but awe. Pure vein. Untouched. "My God." You crouch beside him, unable to look away. The light is mesmerizing. It dances through layers of frozen water, bending and reflecting like liquid flame. When the wind picks up again, faint ripples shimmer across the ice, and for a moment it looks as if the world beneath is moving, flowing. "What makes it glow like that?" you ask softly. "No one knows," he says. "Some say it's chemical. Some say it's alive. Whatever it is, it burns endlessly. A handful can power a generator for years. But it's unstable, heat it too fast, and it devours itself." You glance at him. "Has anyone tried mining it?" He chuckles, though the sound is brittle. "Of course. That's why Frosthaven exists. Every man here thinks he'll tame the fire. None of us ever do." You lean closer to the crack, holding your breath. The glow deepens, bathing your face in soft white. For a fleeting instant, you see shapes moving within it, shadows that don't belong. A hand, a face, the illusion of eyes opening beneath the ice. You blink and it's gone. "Did you see that?" Merrick shakes his head. "See what?" "Nothing. Must have been the light." You stand, brushing snow from your gloves. The wind rises again, whistling through the fissure like a flute. The sound is almost musical, eerie, beautiful, mournful. You and Merrick watch the light until your lantern burns low. Neither of you speaks. There's nothing to say that the silence doesn't already know. When you finally turn back toward Frosthaven, the glow fades behind you, swallowed by night. But it lingers in your mind, a color you've never seen before, a memory that feels alive under your skin. Back at the workshop, Merrick tosses his gloves onto the bench. You understand it now, don't you? Understand what? Why no one leaves, he says, eyes gleaming. We come here thinking we're after gold or ore or money. But it's the light. It gets inside you. You can't forget it. You can't stop wanting to see it again. You sit across from him, staring at the flickering stove. Its orange flame suddenly looks dull, feeble, human. The white light beneath the ice felt different, colder, purer, endless. Would you go back to see it again, knowing it might never let you go? Would you risk warmth for beauty that burns too bright to hold? You don't answer. But that night, as you lie in your cot, the glow finds you anyway, behind your eyelids, in your breath, in the quiet hum of your heartbeat. The room seems to pulse faintly with it. And just before sleep takes you, you think you hear something. A faint whisper rising from beneath the frozen earth, soft as breath on glass. A voice saying your name. The nights in Frosthaven no longer feel like time passing, only breathing. The world inhales in darkness and exhales in light that never warms. Somewhere in between, you've started writing again. It began as a way to stay awake. Then it became something else. Each evening, after the generator's quiet and the last hammer falls silent, you light the small oil lamp by your bunk. Its flame wavers in the draft, painting soft gold on the wooden walls. Beside it, a stack of rough paper, scavenged packing sheets, creased and uneven. You take one, smooth it out carefully, and begin. My dearest Anna, the nights here don't end. The sun hides like a frightened child. The ice sings in its sleep, and sometimes I think it dreams of us. If you could see it, the white fire beneath the ground, you'd say it looks like heaven buried alive. You pause, ink freezing at the nib of your pen. The paper smells faintly of oil and cold metal. You imagine her reading it, hands warm, light falling over her shoulders the way it used to in the old house. You can almost see her smile. Almost. But you know the letter will never reach her. The south is too far, the road's gone, the sea's half frozen. There are no postmarks anymore, only ghosts carrying words to nowhere. Still you write. Because saying nothing feels like dying faster. Across the room, Merrick sleeps with his boots still on, snoring softly. His face twitches in dreams. Maybe he's back in Krakow, maybe nowhere at all. The walls creak. Ice shifts under the foundation. Outside, the wind claws at the boards like a creature searching for warmth. You dip the pen again. I built a new door today. It closes cleanly, no gaps for the cold to sneak in. I thought of the one I made for you the summer before everything changed. You said it smelled of cedar and sunlight. Here, everything smells like smoke and iron. I miss the scent of rain. You stop again, letting the words sit like breath on glass. The room flickers with light from the core tower outside. Faint, rhythmic, a heartbeat for the colony. You wonder if Anna would have liked it here. No, you decide. She was made for gardens, for soft rain on her hands, not for a world that never thaws. Merrick stirs in his sleep. You still talking to ghosts? He murmurs without opening his eyes. You smile faintly. Only one. He chuckles, the sound half-dream. Ghosts make better listeners than people. They don't interrupt. You set the pen down. Fold the paper once. Then again. You slide it under a wooden plank beneath your cot, the same place you've hidden the others. 7 letters now, each one heavier than the last. A small archive of a life that no longer exists. Would you write too if no one could ever read it? Would you still need to be heard? You lie back, staring at the ceiling. Frost patterns spread across the boards like veins. The lamp's flame trembles, then steadies. In its glow, you notice something faint, a shimmer, a reflection moving across the wall. It's the same color as the white fire beneath the ice. That impossible light again, seeping through cracks it shouldn't reach. You sit up, watching. It fades after a moment, leaving only shadow. The air smells slightly different, sharp, electric, like metal struck by lightning. You tell yourself it's your imagination. It's easier that way. Outside, someone shouts, the night guard on patrol. All clear, he calls, his voice echoing off the frozen cliffs. Then silence again, as if the world sighs in relief. You close your eyes and think of Anna's voice, the way she said your name, softly, like it was something worth keeping safe. You whisper it into the darkness, and for a heartbeat, it feels like she answers. Only the sound of the lamp flickering, but still, enough. You drift between waking and sleep, letters unwritten whispering at the edge of your thoughts. The cold presses close, curious, careful, almost kind. And before your mind fades, one final question surfaces. When the living forget your name, do the dead remember it for you? The lamp sputters. The paper curls. The night inhales once more. And you, the last dreamer with ink-stained fingers, drift quietly into the breath of Frosthaven. It begins with a sound. Not thunder, not wind, something lower, older. A distant groan that rises from the earth itself, as though the ice beneath Frosthaven were stretching after too long a sleep. Then comes the wind. It rolls down from the northern ridge like a living thing, carrying a wall of white that swallows the horizon in seconds. The air turns solid. Snow spins so thick you can't tell ground from sky. Within minutes, the colony disappears. Buildings, lights, people, all erased into one endless storm. You're outside when it hits. The sky collapses, the world vanishes. The first breath burns your throat. The second almost kills you. You drop your tools and run, guided only by the memory of shapes. The fence, the workshop, the faint glow of a lamp that flickers like a heartbeat in the dark. Marek's voice cuts through the storm, raw and distant. Jonas, here. You stumble toward it, each step a battle. The wind slams into you, carrying bits of ice sharp enough to tear skin. The snow finds every gap in your coat, filling it with cold until your body no longer feels like your own. You finally crash through the workshop door, collapsing inside. Marek and two others shove the door shut behind you, sealing it with a steel bar. For a moment, no one speaks. Everyone is panting, breaths ragged, faces white with frost. Then the lights flicker once, twice, and hold. The storm screams outside, clawing at the walls like something alive. Elara, you gasp. She's in the command cabin, Marek says. If it still stands. He moves to the furnace, shoving in more coal. The flames roar to life, small and desperate. The walls shake. The wind outside howls like it's trying to remember your name. Hours pass, or maybe days. Time loses meaning when the world becomes nothing but noise. You seal cracks with rags, patch leaks with pitch. The air tastes of metal and fear. Each gust makes the floorboards groan, each sound a question. Will it hold? At one point, Marek laughs suddenly, a short, sharp sound. You ever think the wind's alive? You look at him. His face is red from heat and cold and sleeplessness. Listen to it, he says. It's not just air. It wants something. You can't disagree. The storm roars like language you can almost understand. Rage, hunger, maybe even joy. The joy of being unstoppable. By the second night, rations run low. The furnace gulps coal faster than you can feed it. The temperature drops until breath crystallizes midair. Someone suggests venturing out to the supply shed. Elara's orders echo in your mind. No one walks alone after dark. But this isn't dark. This is something worse. A blindness that breathes. You volunteer anyway. Marek argues, then sighs, grabbing his coat. Fine. If we die, we'll die in pairs. The moment you open the door, the storm eats the world again. You tether ropes around your waists, move slowly, one step at a time, guided by faint memory. The colony no longer exists, just ghost outlines in white. The snow comes from every direction at once, impossible to tell up from down. You could fall into the sky and never know it. You find the shed by accident, your gloved hand striking wood. You pry the door open, crawl inside. Barrels, crates, frozen meat, all coated in frost. You load a sled quickly, fingers numb, and pull it back into the storm. The rope tugs, then goes slack. Marek. Nothing. You turn, heart hammering. The wind has swallowed him. You shout again, your voice instantly devoured. Panic floods through you. You can't tell where you are, where he is, where anything is. Then, through the blur, a faint light, flickering lantern far to your left. You move toward it, rope trailing uselessly behind. Shapes shift in the storm, maybe trees, maybe ghosts. The light vanishes, then reappears. You stumble, fall, crawl, until finally you crash into a body. Marek. Half buried, lantern still clutched in his hand. His goggles are iced over, his breath shallow but there. You grab him, pull him up, and the two of you stumble the last meters together, guided by instinct more than sight. When you reach the workshop again, the others drag you in. The door slams shut. Someone weeps, you're not sure who. The furnace roars. The world narrows to that sound, that glow, that fragile bubble of warmth. Elara arrives an hour later, covered in ice, eyes bloodshot. Command roof's gone, she says simply. 2 men missing. Marek hands her tea. She doesn't drink it. just sits by the fire, staring into the flames. The storm's moving west. If the ice holds, we'll see light again by morning. But morning doesn't come. Not for 3 days. When the wind finally dies, the silence is unbearable. You step outside into a world remade. Half the colony is gone. Roofs torn off, scaffolds collapsed, fences buried. The sun, if it can still be called that, hangs low and pale, a white coin lost in the sky. Bodies lie beneath drifts, their shapes softened by snow. You help dig them out. Each face looks strangely peaceful, as if the storm had whispered them to sleep. Merrick crosses himself quietly. Ilara just nods to each one, marking names in her ledger. That night, the sky clears for the first time in weeks. The aurora dances above the wreckage, ribbons of green and violet twisting like smoke. Merrick stares upward. "Still beautiful," he murmurs. You nod. "Even now." And Ilara, standing beside you, says softly, "Especially now. Beauty only means something when it survives the storm." Would you have found it beautiful too, standing there, surrounded by silence, loss, and light that refuses to die? The cold presses close again, but it feels different now. Less like an enemy, more like something that has tested you and allowed you to remain. The storm has taken what it wanted. The rest it leaves behind, still breathing. After the storm, Frosthaven falls into a quiet so deep it feels like the world has been emptied. The snow has sealed every sound. The creak of timbers, the distant hum of engines, even the wind seems to have forgotten its voice. You wake each morning to a white stillness that presses against the windows like fogged glass. It's beautiful in a way that hurts to look at for too long. Days pass in fragments. You and Merrick repair what the storm destroyed. Each nail, each plank feels like a small act of defiance against the void that nearly swallowed you. Ilara moves through the wreckage with that same steady calm. Her notebook always in hand, her words clipped and precise. Inventory first, grief later. That's her rhythm. At night, the colony gathers in the hall. Not to celebrate, just to prove you still exist. The fire crackles, boots thaw by the stove, and people speak softly as if afraid to wake the storm again. Someone jokes that silence is the loudest sound in Frosthaven. Everyone laughs, but too quickly. Then one night, the silence changes. It begins faintly, just as you're closing the workshop shutters. A vibration so soft you almost mistake it for the pulse in your ears. You freeze, listening. There it is again, a long, low tone, distant but deliberate. It rises and falls, layered and slow, like wind moving through hollow glass. You step outside. The air bites hard. The snow underfoot glows faintly from the reflection of the aurora above, green and violet flames sliding across the sky. But the sound doesn't come from above. It comes from beneath. You kneel, press your gloved hand to the ground. The ice hums. Not constantly, rhythmically. As if something under it is singing. You call out for Merrick. He joins you moments later, lantern swinging, breath-forming clouds. You hear it too? You ask. He nods slowly. Pressure shifts, he says, though his tone lacks conviction. Air trapped under the ice. It sounds like voices. You whisper. He snorts softly. Then let's hope they're friendly ones. But you can't laugh. Because the longer you listen, the clearer it becomes. The tones intertwine. Not random, not noise. Melody. A haunting, wordless song that moves like water under the surface, distant yet alive. That night you can't sleep. The sound follows you inside, faint but insistent. You sit up on your cot, listening to the walls. The wood vibrates. The lamp flickers. Every few minutes, the melody swells, as if something vast is turning beneath Frosthaven, its movement creating music in the pressure and ice. You begin to hear patterns. Rising intervals, soft harmonies. A voice higher than the rest, clear as glass. It sounds almost human. When dawn comes, if the gray sky can be called that, you go to Ilara. She's already awake, reading weather logs by the dim light of a lantern. You tell her what you heard. She listens, expression unreadable. Ice sinks, she says finally. When it shifts under weight, it makes tones. The colder it gets, the higher they go. It's just physics. Then why does it sound like a choir? She looks up from her notebook, eyes shadowed. Because we need it to. You want to argue, but you stop. She's right, maybe. Maybe the mind fills silence with what it needs most. The sound of something answering back. Still, you can't let it go. That evening, you return to the ridge where you first saw the white fire veins. The snow there lies untouched, perfect. You kneel again, ear close to the ice. The song is stronger now. It rises and falls in waves, deep, resonant, impossibly mournful. The harmonies twist like light underwater. You close your eyes. For a moment, you see faces in the glow beneath the ice. Dozens, maybe hundreds, pale and silent, mouths open in song. Their eyes are closed, peaceful. Their voices blend with the hum of the frozen earth. You whisper, "Who are you?" The song doesn't answer, but it changes. The notes shift downward, slower, heavier, a language you don't understand but somehow recognize. The air thickens. Your chest tightens. Then, as quickly as it began, it stops. The silence that follows is unbearable. You stand dizzy and realize your lantern has gone out. The world is completely dark. When you relight it, the ice is smooth again. No glow, no faces, just snow. You walk back to Frosthaven in near total silence, the only sound your boots crushing the crusted snow. Behind you, the aurora burns quietly, green curtains drifting in the windless sky. You feel watched, not by eyes, but by memory itself. Later, as you sit by the furnace, Merrick asks without looking up, "You hear it again?" You nod. He stares into the fire. Best not to listen too closely. The north's full of echoes. Some aren't meant for us. You don't reply. But in your chest, the hum still lingers, faint, patient, waiting. Would you listen again if you knew the song remembered you? Outside, the ice shifts once more, singing to itself in a language older than warmth. And somewhere in that sound, soft as breath on glass, your name drifts upward, part of the frozen choir now, forever humming beneath the snow. For 3 days after the singing, Frosthaven moves like a creature half asleep. People repair, patch, and rebuild, but their eyes wander to the horizon, to the places where sound once came from. Even the wind seems hesitant to speak, as if afraid to wake something ancient beneath the ice. Merrick, however, is restless. He spends hours in the workshop, pacing, drawing lines on scrap wood, muttering equations under his breath. His tools scatter across the tables, gears, valves, glass tubes, and pieces of whitefire scrap sealed in iron containers. The air smells of oil and metal and something faintly electrical, like the moment before lightning strikes. You find him there one evening, his lantern burning low. "Merrick," you say quietly, "you've barely slept." He looks up, eyes bright, feverish. "You heard it, didn't you? The song?" You nod cautiously. "It wasn't just the ice shifting," he continues. "That resonance, it came from the ore. I'm certain of it. The whitefire's reacting to pressure under the glacier. It wants to move, to sing." You frown. You make it sound alive. "Maybe it is." He smiles thinly. "Or maybe it just doesn't care about the difference." He gestures for you to follow. On a workbench sits a small contraption of pipes and copper coils, glowing faintly from within. "The old generator runs on coal and despair," he says. "But this is different. I've been feeding trace amounts of whitefire dust into a pressure chamber. The output's clean, hot, controlled." You stare at the machine. It hums with a low, pleasant vibration, the same tone you heard beneath the ice. Warm light spills from its vents, pale and steady. "It's beautiful," you admit. "It's salvation," Merrick replies. "With this, we could heat the entire colony through winter. No more frost-bitten fingers. No more broken pipes. Real warmth." Then, more quietly, "And maybe the singing will stop." He watches you expectantly. You hesitate. "Does Alara know?" He laughs without humor. "Alara knows about control. She doesn't understand creation. She understands survival," you counter. He shrugs. "Survival's just slower dying. This is living." You stay with him through the night as he refines the machine. He measures temperature, adjusts valves, notes every flicker of the light. Around midnight, the glow intensifies, flooding the room in ghostly white. The air grows warm, not just warm, alive. Your breath fogs less, your fingers thaw. You almost forget where you are. Then a faint sound beneath the hum, like a whisper. The same resonance as the frozen choir, but gentler, closer. "Do you hear that?" you ask. Merrick grins. "It's harmonizing. It recognizes its own frequency." You step back, uneasy. "Recognizes?" "It's communicating," he insists. "It's singing with itself." The light grows brighter. The wood walls glow pale. The machine hums higher, too high. Merrick rushes to adjust the valve, twisting it hard. The sound lowers again, settling into a deep, steady tone. The danger passes. For now. He exhales, wiping frost from his beard. See? Control. You just have to listen to it, not fight it. You stare at the faint halo around his face, a reflection of the white fire burning within the machine. It makes him look both younger and older, like a man lit from inside. When you finally leave, the night is unnervingly still. The aurora ripples faintly above, green ribbons twisting like breath across the stars. The core tower's usual glow looks dull compared to the pale light spilling from Marek's window. You think of Alara's warning. White fire burns hotter than anything known. It devours itself, and you with it if you try to hold it too close. Would you have told her? Would you have stopped him if you could? The next morning, the colony wakes to warmth for the first time in months. Frost melts from window panes. Water runs freely through the pipes. People smile again, real smiles, not the kind you force for morale. They gather in the hall, whispering, Merrick did something. The heat's back. The cold's broken. Alara finds you near the furnace. You know what's happening? She asks. You hesitate. He found a way to stabilize the white fire. Just enough to power the lines. She narrows her eyes. That or isn't stable. You know it. I know, you say. But it's working. For now, she replies, then looks toward Marek's workshop. For now is how the North kills you. That night, Merrick throws open his door. Warm air pours out into the snow. We did it, he shouts to anyone listening. The white fire can serve us. And for a brief, impossible moment, Frosthaven glows brighter than the aurora above it. A city of ghosts lit by the fire of angels. You stand in the street, watching the light pour across the ice. It's beautiful. It's wrong. And deep beneath your boots, you think you hear something stirring. The frozen choir singing louder now. Not in harmony, but in warning. Warmth changes people. It softens the voice, loosens the laughter, makes even the most exhausted faces seem briefly human again. After so many months of cold that bit through skin and bone, the new heat feels almost like grace. The day Marek's generator is linked to the main power grid, Frosthaven comes alive. Pipes hiss. Lights hum. Doors open without the usual groan of frost-bound hinges. For the first time you hear someone singing, a real song, not the one the ice makes. And so, that evening, Alara allows what no one thought possible here. A celebration. They call it the Feast of Shadows. Because light, it seems, always brings something darker with it. Long tables are dragged into the hall. Lanterns glow in every corner. The air smells of stew, melted fat, and wood smoke. People laugh too loud, eat too quickly, as though trying to make up for every hungry day before. Someone finds an old violin and tunes it by ear. Merrick stands near the center, flushed from heat and pride, hands still stained with oil and frostbite. The crowd cheers when he raises his mug. To warmth, he says, voice rough. And to the fire that finally listens to us. The hall erupts. Cups clash, boots stomp. Even Alara, standing at the far end, raises her glass, though her smile doesn't reach her eyes. You sit beside her. You don't trust it, you say quietly. She shakes her head. Trust isn't the word. Fire that listens is still fire. The music grows faster. A few begin to dance, awkward, heavy-footed, but joyful. Someone starts singing an old miner's tune. Laughter spills into the rafters, where frost still clings stubbornly to the beams. For a while, the sound almost feels like summer. You close your eyes and let it wash over you, the warmth, the motion, the rhythm of life returning. Then you notice it, a faint hum beneath the music. The same tone you've heard before, deep, resonant, pulsing through the floorboards. You glance at Merrick. He's smiling, oblivious, tapping his foot in time. The glow from the generator room spills faintly under the door behind him, not orange but white, the kind of light that doesn't belong to fire. The hum grows louder, syncing with the fiddle's rhythm, like two melodies trying to share one heart. You lean toward Alara. Do you hear that? She nods once, her jaw tightening. I told him to keep the output steady. If he's pushing it, we may have hours. Maybe less. Before you can move, the light flickers. Just once. Enough for everyone to pause. The music falters. Then, just as quickly, it steadies. Merrick raises his glass again, laughing. See? Even the fire likes to dance. The crowd laughs with him. Only Alara doesn't. The feast continues. Plates empty, mugs refill. Heat blooms through the room until cheeks glow red and sweat drips down necks. Outside, frost melts from windows for the first time in months, running in thin rivers down the glass. No one notices the steam rising from the snow. Hours later, as the night deepens, Alara approaches Merrick. Her voice is low but sharp. "Turn it down." He grins, shaking his head. "Not tonight. Let them feel it. Let them remember what it means to be alive." "Merrick," she says, and this time her tone leaves no room. It's not a toy. It's a storm waiting for permission. He hesitates, then laughs again, though the sound rings hollow. "You always see the end of things, Alara. Maybe tonight, try seeing the middle." He leaves before she can answer. Later, you help her carry supplies back to storage. The hall still roars with laughter. The sound fades as you step outside into the cold night air. Or what's left of it. The temperature has changed, warmer, yes, but wrong. Too even. Too still. The snow underfoot is soft, wet, unfamiliar. The aurora above burns faintly, its colors blurred like smudged paint. Alara watches the horizon. The balance breaks quietly at first, she murmurs. Then all at once. You don't ask what she means. You already know. When you return inside, the music has changed. Slower now, softer, as if the building itself were growing tired. Merrick stands by the generator room door, one hand pressed to the wall. The white light seeps through the cracks, steady but throbbing. He looks up at you, eyes distant. "Do you hear it?" he whispers. "The hum?" "No," he says. "The song. It's clearer now. It's in tune. You listen. For a heartbeat, you think you hear it too. Faint voices threading through the hum, the same melody you once heard beneath the ice. It sounds like a lullaby. It sounds like surrender. Would you still listen, knowing that beauty this perfect always demands something back? The song fades. The laughter returns. Someone toasts again, someone else stumbles and falls. Life continues, loud, bright, fragile. But outside, the snow no longer glows white. It glows pale gold, lit from below. And deep under Frosthaven, something hums in answer. Not in joy this time, but in hunger. At first, it's just a tremor. A pulse too faint to notice, like the slow blink of a sleeping eye. 4 days after the feast, Frosthaven hums with life. The generator never sleeps. Pipes run warm. Breath no longer fogs the air. People walk lighter, speak louder. They've begun to forget the months of endless night, the frozen mornings when silence itself hurt to breathe. But you notice the hum. Always the hum. It lingers beneath every sound, behind laughter, behind footsteps, behind your own heartbeat. You feel it most at night when the halls are quiet and the walls seem to listen. It isn't mechanical anymore. It's melodic, familiar. The same rhythm you heard under the ice. Alara keeps records. She measures energy output, temperature shifts, air density, all the invisible signs of imbalance. Merrick keeps none. He trusts instinct, his hands, his belief that control is only a matter of will. The two of them orbit each other like twin stars, bound, opposing, inevitable. Something's changing, Alara tells you one morning. Her notebook trembles in her gloved hand. The readings don't make sense. The white fire's burning cleaner, yes, but also faster. It's evolving inside the chamber. You frown. Evolving? She closes the notebook. If I said growing, would you sleep better? When you visit Merrick, the warmth hits like a wall. His workshop feels tropical, heavy with the scent of oil and sweat. The machine, once no bigger than a stove, now stands taller than a man, its core glowing through layers of frost glass and copper veins. Inside, the light moves like liquid fire. Beautiful. Terrifying. He doesn't look up as you enter. She thinks it's dangerous, you say. She's afraid, he replies. Always has been. She mistakes fear for wisdom. Merrick, the hum's getting louder. People are starting to hear it. Then they'll finally listen, he murmurs. Maybe it's not a warning. Maybe it's a welcome. You approach the machine. The heat ripples through your coat, your skin prickling. Beneath the hum, you hear whispers, layered, distant, almost human. Words that dissolve before meaning forms. For a heartbeat, you think you understand them. Then it's gone. Merrick, you whisper. It's speaking. He looks up, eyes lit white in the glow. Of course it is. Everything alive wants to be heard. That night, Frosthaven dreams. The entire colony hums in unison, walls, floors, pipes, even the frozen ground. The aurora above wavers, its colors pulsing with the rhythm of the generator. Dogs whine. The air vibrates. Then, for a single perfect instant, the light flares, brilliant, blinding, and dies. Darkness. Total. The silence that follows feels wrong. Too thick. Too alive. Someone screams. Then nothing again. You rush outside. The entire settlement stands cloaked in black, the stars sharp and pitiless above. Steam curls from vents that no longer hiss. The cold rushes in, greedy and immediate, reclaiming what warmth stole. "Merrick," you shout, running toward the workshop. The snow crunches loud in the dead air. Your lantern flickers, struggling. Every window is dark, except one. A single slit of white light bleeding from beneath the workshop door. Inside, Merrick stands motionless, staring at the dormant machine. It no longer hums. It breathes. The glow inside pulses faintly, a heart struggling against its cage. Elara bursts in behind you, eyes wide. "Turn it off," she snaps. "It already is," Merrick whispers. "It just won't stop." The light inside flickers. Once, twice. The walls shudder with each pulse. You feel it in your teeth, your bones. The hum returns, soft, mournful, like a choir far beneath the ice. Elara steps forward, yanking at the main valve. The machine resists, metal groaning. "It's feeding back," she gasps. "It's drawing energy from." She doesn't finish. Because in that moment, the light dies completely. Darkness swallows Frosthaven again. For a long, breathless stretch, there is nothing. Then a new sound begins, faint, wet, deep beneath your feet. Not the hum of machinery. The crack of ice. Outside, the temperature plummets. The snow freezes mid-melt, hard as stone. The aurora vanishes. In the silence that follows, you hear it again, that impossible harmony echoing from the glacier's heart. The frozen choir, louder now, closer. Merrick kneels beside the dead generator, hands trembling. "It's awake," he whispers. "It was never ours to use. We just knocked on its door." You turn toward the sound outside, a low groan rolling through the valley, followed by another, deeper, like something vast shifting in its sleep. The ground trembles. Frost falls from the rafters like dust. "Out," Elara orders. "Now." You drag Merrick to his feet. As you reach the door, the workshop floor splits with a sound like tearing metal. A blade of white light erupts from the crack, silent, blinding, cold. It slices through the air, touching nothing but burning everything it touches. The machine convulses once more, then settles into a single, steady heartbeat. You run. Outside, Frosthaven glows from beneath, each house rimmed with pale fire seeping through the snow. The ice itself is singing again, louder than ever, not mournful now, but exultant. You turn back. The workshop stands untouched, and yet, through its walls, you see the silhouettes of figures moving in the light. Dozens of them, singing. But only Merrick and Elara went inside. The next morning, the hum is gone. The light is gone. So are they. The generator room stands empty. The snow outside, smooth again, hides every trace of what happened. But when night falls, the frost on your window forms strange, delicate shapes, like faces singing without sound. And deep beneath Frosthaven, a faint pulse remains. It flickers, waits, listens. After the light, silence doesn't feel peaceful. Feels like being buried alive in snow. For 3 days, Frosthaven exists in dim candlelight. The generator is dead or sleeping. No one knows which. The pipes are frozen again. Frost creeps across the walls like veins reclaiming the body of a dying town. People speak in whispers, as if afraid the sound might wake whatever still lingers beneath their feet. You move through the settlement like a ghost, checking cabins, counting survivors, melting snow for water. The air tastes metallic, dry, brittle. Even breathing feels like breaking something. Elara and Merrick are gone. Their workshop stands sealed, its door fused shut with a sheen of glassy ice. Inside, a faint shimmer glows and fades, like embers under ash. The others avoid it, crossing themselves as they pass. Some say they were taken. Others say they became light themselves. You don't say anything. You just listen. At night, the silence changes. It grows textured, layered, almost musical. Sometimes, when the wind moves through the cracks in the walls, you think you hear Marek's voice, a hum so low it could be your own heartbeat echoing back. Would you answer if it called your name? By the 5th day, Frostbite claims the first of the old miners. He's found sitting upright by his window, eyes open, a smile frozen across his face. Someone covers him with a blanket. No one speaks. The snow falls soundlessly, burying the tracks that lead to his door. Ilara's absence feels heavier than Marek's. She was the steady one, the map, the compass, the quiet center around which everything spun. Without her, even the air feels uncertain, like the world's forgotten which way to turn. That evening you walk down to the river. The ice there hasn't cracked again since the night of the flicker, but beneath the surface the water moves. You can see it, faint ripples glowing under the crust as if the river itself remembers the light. You kneel, touch the surface. It's warm. Not enough to melt, just enough to pulse faintly like a living thing. You whisper, "Are you still there?" And something, maybe current, maybe voice, answers back so softly you almost convince yourself you imagined it. Always. You stay by the river until the cold pushes through your coat, through your skin, through your resolve. By the time you return, night has settled like a lid over the world. The candles in the mess hall flicker weakly. People huddle close, sharing what little warmth they can. A young boy, one of the cook's sons, looks up at you and asks, "When will it come back?" The light. You want to tell him it already has. That the faint glow under the ice, the pulse you felt, is proof that the fire never truly dies. But you can't. Words feel fragile here, easily broken. So instead you smile. "Soon," you say. "When it's ready." He nods as if that's enough. Maybe it is. That night you dream of Marek. He's standing on the ice, not buried under it, bare-handed, calm. The aurora moves behind him, pale and slow, like breath on glass. He looks at you and says, "We didn't lose the light. We just taught it our shape." You reach for him, but the dream fractures, soundlessly, beautifully, like thin crystal breaking. When you wake, the room is dark, but your hands are warm. The next morning, Frosthaven stirs. The cold is still sharp, but the air feels different, lighter somehow, less cruel. The sky has cleared to a pale blue, a color you haven't seen in months. The snow glitters faintly in the sunlight, throwing shards of light against the windows. Someone laughs, an honest laugh. Another voice joins, then another. Life returning quietly like a thaw beneath the frost. You go to the river again. The glow beneath the ice is stronger now. Not dangerous, not loud, just steady. It follows the current downstream, winding toward the horizon. You don't know what it means, rebirth, memory, or simply the world rearranging itself. But you know what you feel. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's listening back. And somewhere below, deep in the ice, a single heartbeat echoes yours. You notice it first through the window. A faint shimmer above the horizon, just where night meets the idea of morning. For a moment you think it's a trick, a mirage born of exhaustion. But then it moves, slowly, deliberately, a ribbon of pale green unfurling across the sky. The aurora has returned. Someone shouts from the main square, then another. Doors open, boots crunch through snow, voices rise into the frozen air. People stand outside, necks craned, breath fogging in the dim light. For months they've seen only darkness and candle glow. Now color spills above them, green, gold, even faint pinks, painting the world like a promise half remembered. But you feel it before you see it, that same vibration, subtle but unmistakable. The hum beneath the beauty, the voice under the color. You whisper, "You're back." The lights ripple in answer. Ilara would have written readings. Marek would have tried to measure it. You only watch, because something in you knows this isn't the same aurora that danced over Frosthaven before the flicker. This one feels closer, lower, as if it remembers where it was born. The townsfolk cheer. Some cry. Others kneel, whispering prayers. For them, the aurora means hope, warmth, survival. For you, it means something deeper, a return but not of what was lost. A reminder that nothing truly disappears in the north. It only changes form. Later, when the excitement fades and people return to their bunks, you stay outside. The wind has died completely. The snow reflects the sky's movement, making it seem as if you stand between two rivers of light, one above, one below. Between heaven and earth, dream and memory. The hum deepens. It's soft, almost tender, like the world breathing in its sleep. You close your eyes and the sound becomes clearer, not a song this time, but words made of light, phrases that have no tongue to speak them. They brush against your mind like the edge of a feather, like someone remembering your name. You see faces in the color, fleeting, familiar. Ilara's steady gaze. Marek's sharp grin. A dozen others who vanished into frost or flame. They're not gone. Not really. The Aurora remembers. You whisper, "What do you want from us?" And the sky seems to answer in its own slow rhythm. To be seen. To be carried. The green fades to white for a heartbeat, so bright it erases shadow. In that light, you see the settlement as it truly is. The cracked roofs, the frostbitten beams, the half-frozen generator building, and yet, beneath all the ruin, a pulse of quiet endurance. The kind of beauty only found in things that refuse to die. When you open your eyes again, the light has shifted. A beam descends briefly, touching the frozen river where you last felt the warmth. The ice glows faintly, responding like an old friend stirred by a familiar voice. You walk to it. The snow crunches softly, the sound small in the vast quiet. When you kneel by the river, the glow reflects across your face, pale and alive. Beneath the ice, the current glimmers, carrying fragments of light downstream, as if the aurora itself is traveling beneath the surface now, learning the ways of water and stone. Is this what you wanted? You ask. To live through us? The hum pauses, then resumes, slower, gentler, like the heartbeat of something vast and forgiving. Behind you, the lights of Frosthaven flicker to life, small flames against the cosmic glow. The survivors gather in doorways, watching the sky. No one speaks. There's no need. The aurora shifts again, turning golden, then silver, then a blue so deep it looks like the color of breath. Would you have stayed if you knew the sky would one day remember your name? You stay until dawn, though dawn here is only a rumor, a lighter shade of blue edging the horizon. The aurora lingers, faint but steady, fading into morning without truly leaving. You feel it in your chest, in the snow beneath your boots, in the water beneath the ice. The hum is softer now, patient. Frosthaven sleeps again, but not the same kind of sleep. This time it dreams of warmth. And as you turn back toward the settlement, the light bends. Just slightly, just enough, to follow you home. You begin to notice them in the mornings first. Shapes trapped inside the snowbanks that hadn't been there the night before. At sunrise, if you can call it that, the faint blue light slants through the frozen air and hits the drifts just right. And in that light, faces appear. Not carved, not drawn, but remembered. A miner's grin. Ilara's profile. The curve of Marek's hand holding a wrench that isn't there. They're fleeting, delicate, gone the moment you blink. But each morning more appear. The townsfolk whisper about spirits. The preacher says the ice is merciful, that it keeps the souls safe until the world thaws again. You're not sure you believe him. The air feels too alive, too knowing. When you pass the old generator hall, you can still hear it sometimes. A pulse beneath the frost, soft as breathing. And if you linger, you swear you can hear them, the lost ones, whispering between the creaks of settling ice. Not haunting, not warning, just remembering. That word, remembering, begins to follow you. In the mess hall, frost patterns form on the windows. When the candles flicker, the frost shifts, tracing symbols that look like maps or perhaps blueprints. Once, while tracing them with your finger, you realize the pattern matches the network of pipes under Frosthaven. Every valve, every bend. Did you do this? You whisper to the empty room. The frost glows faintly in answer, then fades, leaving your reflection looking older than you remember. You tell the others. Most laugh it off. Ice plays tricks, they say. We all see what we miss. But one woman, Clara, the baker's wife, looks at you differently. Last night, she says quietly, I heard my daughter's voice outside. She's been gone 3 winters now. I thought it was the wind. But the wind doesn't call my name like that. You walk together to the river. The ice there has grown clearer, more glass than frost. Beneath it, light moves slowly in patterns that mimic breath. Clara kneels, pressing her gloved palm to the surface. Do you see it? She whispers. You do. A small figure, running, laughing, disappearing in a swirl of light. Just enough to make the heart ache. She sobs softly. She remembered me. You want to comfort her, but what words could fit in a place where even the dead speak in light? That night, you sit alone outside your cabin. The aurora drifts lazily above, softer now, almost tender. The snow glows faintly from beneath, like the ground itself has learned to breathe. You speak to the air. What are you becoming? No answer. Only the steady rhythm of the wind. But then, faintly, almost too quiet to hear. The word slips into you like warmth, slow, certain, unsettling. You realize then that the ice isn't holding on to the dead. It's learning from the living. Every breath, every step, every word said in Frosthaven leaves an echo, frozen into memory. You wonder, will it remember you too? Your mistakes? Your voice? The sound of your heart slowing at night? Would you want it to? As the days pass, Frosthaven changes. The cold is still cruel, but it no longer feels empty. The snow drifts hums softly when walked upon. The wind carries laughter you can't quite trace. The settlement feels inhabited by something gentler. Not ghosts, but echoes of every kindness, every failure, every spark of life that dared to exist here. The ice is not death. It's memory. One evening you return to the generator hall. The walls still shimmer faintly under your lantern's glow. You brush away a layer of frost from the door and find, beneath it, a single clear spot. A palm print, perfectly preserved. Marks. You press your own hand against it. It's warm. Somewhere deep beneath the ice, the hum answers, soft, familiar, and full of something that feels almost like forgiveness. Starts with a sound. Not a hum this time, but a whisper. Low, rhythmic, like water moving under glass. You wake in the dark, unsure what stirred you. The cabin is cold again. The fire's gone out. Frost has crept across the window, sketching thin lines that look almost deliberate. They curve, bend, converge toward one point, the old supply tunnels beneath the settlement. You dress without thinking. Outside, the world is still. The aurora has dimmed to a faint silver haze. The snow no longer falls, it waits. Your boots crunch softly as you walk through the sleeping streets. The air feels thick, heavy with the kind of silence that isn't absence but attention. The entrance to the tunnels yawns open behind the old storehouse. You lower yourself down the frozen ladder, your lantern's glow painting trembling circles on the walls. The air grows warmer the deeper you go, though the warmth feels wrong, not comfort but pulse. Every few steps, the ice glimmers faintly and the whisper returns, clearer now, shaped into rhythm. You pause and realize it's not just sound. It's words repeating in a dozen voices at once. We remember. We remember. You move slower. The tunnel narrows, pressing close. Beneath the layers of frost, you begin to see movement. Not shadows, not tricks of light. Memories. Here a man splitting wood. There a woman stirring a pot beside a flickering lamp. Further down, Merrick laughing, his breath a cloud of gold. They shimmer like reflections caught between layers of ice. Moments replaying themselves in perfect silence. The walls are no longer walls. They're mirrors of time. You whisper, "Why show me this?" The air answers in a sound like wind through glass, "Because you stayed." You follow the tunnel deeper. The air grows bright, not from your lantern but from within the ice itself. The frost breathes now in slow waves of light. And there, at the heart of the glow, you find it. A great circular chamber, the old geothermal shaft. The place where the white fire was first tested. The generator stands silent in the center, covered in translucent ice. But inside that ice, you see them. Ilara and Merrick. Their figures suspended mid-motion. Her hand on the control valve, his reaching toward her. Their eyes are open. Come. Their faces serene, as though they stopped not in terror but in understanding. The white fire glows faintly between them, a sphere of liquid light. Not frozen, not moving, but remembering. You kneel. The warmth seeps into your knees, through the fabric, through your bones. Is this where you've been? You whisper. The answer isn't a sound but a feeling. A rising tide in your chest. A memory not your own. Images flood your mind. The first fires of Frosthaven's forge. The night the light sang through the ice. Hands building, breaking, praying, surviving. All the moments that shaped this place, woven together like threads of light. Then you see yourself, small, flickering, walking these same tunnels months ago, unaware that the walls were already watching. You understand then. The white fire was never just energy. It was memory itself, condensed, radiant, alive. When Merrick sought warmth, he awoke awareness. When Ilara tried to control it, she gave it shape. Together, they taught it to feel. And now, it remembers everyone who's ever touched its light. You reach toward the sphere. Your reflection bends across its surface, endless, multiplied, shifting through ages. When your fingers graze it, a rush of warmth floods you, too much, too human. For a heartbeat, you see everything. Frosthaven before the cold. Frosthaven long after you're gone. The ice melting into rivers that carry stories downstream. The light traveling with them, quiet, eternal. Your hand trembles. You want to pull away. But the light is gentle now, and it doesn't hold you. It simply lingers, a touch, a question. Would you stay if you could live forever as memory? You take a breath, and in that breath you feel them, Merrick, Ilara, the countless others, not gone but present. The chamber hums, soft as sleep. The ice around the generator shifts, releasing tiny flakes that fall like feathers. And in their glow, the voices whisper again. We remember. Now so do you. You rise slowly. The light fades, leaving only warmth, not the burning kind, but the kind that stays. The kind that lives behind your ribs. You take one last look at the figures in the ice. For the first time they look not trapped, but free. When you climb back toward the surface, dawn is waiting. A thin blush of gold touches the horizon. The world above hums faintly, not from machines, but from memory itself. The cold feels softer on your skin. The air less cruel. You realize that maybe Frosthaven was never meant to survive in the way cities do. Maybe it was meant to remember, to hold the stories of those who tried. You step into the light, and for the first time since the long night began, you no longer feel alone. The sound of dripping water is the first sign. Not wind, not cracking ice, just a single drop falling in the stillness, then another and another until the air fills with it. The thaw has begun. At first no one believes it. The cold has ruled too long, written itself into bone and breath. But one morning the snow outside your cabin has softened. The frost on the window melts into delicate rivulets, carving lines like veins across the glass. The sun, faint, distant, but real, lingers longer on the horizon. Frosthaven breathes again. You walk through the settlement, past roofs glittering with meltwater, past the black mouths of chimneys that no longer smoke. The air smells different now, wet, mineral, alive. You can hear the river under its ice crust, restless, whispering like a sleeper stirring from dreams. The others emerge slowly, blinking in the strange light. They move cautiously, as if afraid that too much joy might wake the cold again. But even the most skeptical can feel it, the shift, the loosening, the end of something vast. By noon the sound grows louder. Meltwater trickles down the main road, carving paths through the packed snow. Children, thinner now, quieter, drop pebbles into the little streams and watch them race downhill. For the first time in months they laugh without echo. You stand by the riverbank where you once felt the pulse beneath the ice. The surface glows faintly now, not with the sharp white of white fire, but with soft reflections of sky. The hum is still there, but distant, like a song half remembered from childhood. You kneel, touch the water. It's cold but not cruel. The current slides past your fingers, carrying tiny flecks of light that swirl and fade. Memory dissolving into motion. It occurs to you that everything in Frosthaven has been waiting for this. Not the gold, not the warmth, but release. Ilara's notebook lies open on your lap. You found it days ago, thawing near the entrance to the old shaft. The pages are warped, the ink blurred, but one sentence remains clear. Nothing in the north dies. It just changes shape. You look up. The aurora is faint even at midday, a pale echo in the sky. Yet as you watch, it ripples once. Not from the heavens this time, but from below, where the water breaks the last of its ice. You realize then, the light isn't leaving. It's moving, flowing with the melt, taking everything it has learned downstream, every breath, every voice, every trace of what Frosthaven once was. Would you hold on to it if you could? Would you freeze it again just to keep it near? Or would you let it go, knowing it will remember you anyway? You take a deep breath. The air tastes of stone and thawed pine, of endings that aren't endings. You close your eyes and listen, to the river, to the melting, to the slow undoing of silence. The ground beneath you hums softly, not in warning this time, but in gratitude. That evening, the remaining settlers gather in the main square. There's no feast, no grand words, only the quiet understanding of people who have survived something together. Someone passes around a small kettle of tea made from melted snow. It tastes faintly of ash and sweetness. You raise your cup. To the light, you say. The others repeat it softly, reverently. To the light. The river answers with a distant crack, like applause. Somewhere far downstream, ice gives way entirely, and the sound rolls through the valley, a long sigh, a release. When night comes, the stars return in their true color for the first time in nearly a year. No more white glare, no more trembling sky, just the clean blue-black quiet of space. You feel small beneath it, but not lost. The world has begun to forget its winter. And yet, it will never forget you. The next morning, you wake to the sound of open water. The river runs free, brown with silt and memory, carrying light toward places you will never see. You stand on the bank until the cold bites again, then whisper one last thing into the wind. Remember us kindly. The wind carries it away. The river answers by shining. And as you walk back through the softening snow, Frosthaven exhales, a final breath of steam into the warming air, and sleeps not in death but in peace. The sky is pale, the color of ash and milk. Mist clings to the snowdrifts, curling like breath from a sleeping animal. Behind you, the settlement lies quiet, roofs sagging under thaw, chimneys dark, windows already losing their frost. You don't look back. If you do, you might never leave. The river greets you with a low murmur. It's no longer trapped by ice, no longer bound to silence. Its surface glitters faintly, still carrying traces of the light, small golden fragments spinning in the current. You build a small raft from driftwood and rope, push it into the water and climb aboard. The current takes you without hesitation. For the first few miles, it's only sound, the steady rush of meltwater, the creak of wood, the whisper of wind moving through thawed pines. But then, beneath the ordinary noise, you hear it, a second rhythm. Quieter, bolder. The river is speaking. At first, it's nothing but murmurs, words half-formed, too deep to understand. You close your eyes, letting the sound vibrate through you. It's not in your ears. It's in your ribs, your bones, your pulse. Slowly, meaning begins to surface. We carry. The voice is not one, but many, layered like current upon current. We remember. It's the same tone the ice once used, but softer now, more forgiving. We go where you cannot. You open your eyes. The banks glide past, dark trees, patches of earth revealed from beneath the melting snow. Every now and then, the light catches on the water, and faces appear for a moment. Ilara, Merrick, Clara's child, then dissolve into ripples. Not ghosts, but memories finding motion. Where are you going? You ask aloud. The river answers by quickening its pace. Downstream. Always downstream. You drift for hours. The air grows warmer, the smell of pine thicker, richer. The world feels wide again. Once or twice, you think you see smoke in the distance, signs of other camps, other lives. But you don't steer toward them. The river has your trust now. It knows where to go. At midday, you pull the raft against a rocky shore to rest. The ground is damp, scattered with moss and the first tiny flowers of spring, pale and trembling but alive. You kneel, touch one gently. It bends but does not break. You remember too, you whisper. The river chuckles softly, a sound like small bells under the surface. You realize then that everything remembers. Not perfectly, not in words, but in rhythm. The land keeps time in thaw and bloom. The river speaks through movement. And the wind carries stories the way you carry breath. Would you have noticed before Frosthaven? Would you have heard what was always there, waiting beneath the noise of survival? You drift again by evening. The light turns amber, glinting off the water like liquid fire. The current slows, curling around wide bends, patient and unhurried. For the first time in months, you feel something close to peace. You talk to the river now and then, out loud like to an old friend. It doesn't always answer, but when it does, it's never wrong. Once you ask, "Do you still hold their voices?" The replies, "No. They hold me." You don't understand, not fully, but somehow that feels right. The night comes quietly. You anchor the raft near a stand of trees, light a small fire, and watch the reflection of flames dance on the surface. The stars shimmer above, mirrored perfectly below. For a moment, you can't tell which world you're in, the skies or the rivers. The water speaks one last time before you drift to sleep. Everywhere we go, you will follow. You smile, eyes half closed. Then tell them our story, you murmur. The current hums in reply, cradling the raft gently, like a hand rocking a cradle. We already are. And as the fire burns low, the sound of the river grows softer, not fading, just deeper, until it becomes the rhythm of your own heartbeat. A memory flowing onward. The river widens as the land opens. 4 days, you drift between walls of melting ice that glisten like glass cathedrals, the current tugging you south, into a valley that smells of thawed earth and rain. One morning, the mist parts and you see it. The valley is alive. Not in the way forests are, or rivers or wind. Alive in the way memory is, bright, fragile, endless. Patches of green spill down the slopes, interrupted by pools of light that shimmer like spilled gold. At first you think it's sunlight on water, but as the raft draws closer, you realize the glow rises from the ground itself. Clusters of tiny flowers, translucent, trembling, bloom in the mud. Their petals burn with a faint, pulsing light. Not warm, not cold. Familiar. White fire. But changed. You step onto the bank, the earth soft under your boots. The air hums, a low, steady chord that you feel more than hear. The flowers bend gently toward you as though acknowledging your presence. When you touch one, it shivers, then straightens again. The light under your fingertips lingers for a heartbeat before flowing back into the stem. They're alive, and remembering. The valley floor is covered with them. Waves of bioluminescent growth roll across the soil, breathing in time with the wind. The old white fire, once bound and burning, has found its way back into the cycle of things. No longer consuming, just being. You walk deeper, tracing the line of the river. The water glows faintly now, carrying with it pollen made of light. Every step leaves prints that shimmer and fade. You realize you are walking through what Frosthaven has become, not ruins but roots. Every voice, every memory that once burned in ice now blooms quietly here, transformed. At the center of the valley, you find something that stops you. A tree. Not large, but unmistakably alive. Its trunk is pale and smooth as bone, its branches reaching outward like open arms. From them hang clusters of the glowing flowers, their light soft, breathing. At the base of the trunk, half buried in the soil, lies a shape. A gear, a broken pipe, the remains of the old generator now entwined with roots. The machine has grown into the world. Or perhaps the world has grown around it. You kneel beside it, running your fingers over the bark. It hums faintly, the same tone you've carried in your chest since the night of the flicker. You whisper, "Is this what you wanted?" The wind moves through the branches, scattering petals of light across your shoulders. The hum deepens, not answer, not command, just acknowledgement. And then, faintly, you hear the river again. But this time it's singing. The sound rises from below, threading through the roots, up through the soil, through the flowers and into the air, a harmony of voices layered in thousands of tones. You recognize some of them. Alara, Merrick, the children, the laughter of people who once worked and froze and dreamed beside you. They're all here. The fire didn't take them, gave them back. You sit beneath the glowing tree, watching the light drift upward like tiny souls returning to the stars. It's beautiful and sad and enough to make you forget the ache of the long winter. Would you have believed it then, when everything was frost and hunger, that this could be the end? That all that pain was only the soil where something gentler would take root? Night falls slowly. The valley doesn't darken, it only changes color. The flowers turn blue, then violet, their light pulsing like breath. The air smells faintly of ash and rain. Somewhere a bird calls, the first you've heard in months. Its cry echoes against the cliffs and vanishes into the glowing dusk. You whisper to the tree, "Will they remember us?" And somewhere deep in its trunk, a pulse answers, one slow, steady heartbeat. You close your eyes, leaning back against the bark. The hum slides into you, through you, until you can't tell if it's the earth breathing or you. And when you finally drift toward sleep, the last thing you hear is the sound of the river merging with the wind, carrying voices downstream, whispering the name Frosthaven to every place that still listens. By the time you reach the lowlands, the river has changed. It no longer runs fast and wild like in the north. It widens, smooths, slows, carrying its stories quietly, the way an old traveler carries scars. Villages begin to appear along its banks. Smoke rises from small huts and fields of pale grass bend under the wind. You haven't seen this much life in months. But as you draw near, you notice something strange. The people are already waiting. A group stands by the water's edge. Farmers, children, a woman with a woven shawl. They watch the river the way you once watched the sky. One child points. "Do you hear it?" he asks. The woman nods. Every night, the river sings. You listen. And yes, there it is. A soft hum, low and constant, threading through the current like a melody too deep for instruments. You feel it before you hear it. The same frequency. The same tone. The memory of white fire carried south by melt and motion. The villagers approach you cautiously. They ask where you've come from, but you can see in their eyes that they already know. Far north, you say. A place called Frosthaven. They whisper the name among themselves, reverent, afraid. We've heard of it, the woman says finally. The river told us. That night they invite you to stay. The houses are small, built of reed and stone. The fire smells of peat and salt. You eat fish cooked over coals, and when you close your eyes, you can almost taste snow again. Outside, the river murmurs. People gather near the bank as the sun sets. They hum along to its rhythm, not perfectly but close. A ritual born from sound. Someone lights lanterns and places them on the surface. They float, their flames trembling, carried by the slow current. The woman from before sits beside you. They say the river carries souls, she whispers. It sings to remind us that nothing is lost. You nod. It carries memories, like names. She studies your face. Were you there? Yes. She's silent for a while. Then tell us what happened. You look at the dark water, at the faint glow that still lingers beneath its surface. You could tell them everything, the cold, the fire, the hum beneath the ice. But as the words gather on your tongue, you realize the river is already speaking for you. So you simply say, we built a place where even the light could learn to live. The woman smiles softly. And did it? You watch a lantern drift away. It did. It still does. Later, as the villagers return home, you sit alone by the bank. The moon reflects in the water, silver and still. Beneath it, something moves, a shimmer of light like breath. The current murmurs, faint but clear. We are telling your story. Where? You ask. Everywhere. You listen. The hum stretches out into the dark, carried beyond the horizon. You realize the river doesn't end here. It travels on, through plains, through forests, through lands where no one knows the name Frosthaven, but everyone knows the song. Would you have guessed that the story would outlive the place? That memory could flow farther than gold or flame. At dawn, you leave again, following the river's slow descent toward the sea. Everywhere you go, you find people listening. Fishermen pausing mid-net, shepherds staring toward the sound, travelers placing hands to water as if greeting an old friend. They all hear the same voice, though none can explain it. Once a child asks you, what language is it singing in? You smile. The oldest one. The one the world spoke before words. The child nods, thoughtful. Will it ever stop? You shake your head. No, it's too full now. It carries too much. And that night, when you sleep by the river's edge, you dream of Frosthaven, but not the frozen one. The valley glows again, green and gold, alive with light that no longer burns. The voices rise, countless and clear, blending into the endless current. They don't call you back. They don't need to. They've already reached the world. When you wake, the sun is rising over the plains. The water glows faintly, even under daylight. The hum is still there, quieter now, content. You dip your hand into the flow, whisper a name you haven't spoken in months. The river answers with warmth. And somewhere far behind you, where the north still sleeps, Frosthaven exhales one final time. Not as fire, not as ice, but as song. The river ends where the sky begins. You see it before you hear it. A line of light stretching across the horizon, so wide and still it could be mistaken for sky. The current slows, spreading into a vast, calm expanse. The sound of rushing water fades into something else. Silence, patient and endless. You see, it doesn't crash or roar here. It waits, breathing with the rhythm of the earth itself. The surface is smooth as polished glass, reflecting clouds, birds, and the faint shimmer of the aurora still lingering in the upper air. For a moment, it's impossible to tell which way is up, whether you're floating on water or on the reflection of the sky. You guide your raft forward, out where the river's color blends with the ocean's silver. The current beneath you still hums faintly, the same frequency, softer now, stretched thin across miles. You realize this is where all rivers go, where all stories go. The wind moves over the surface, carrying the scent of salt and something older, almost electric, the memory of white fire, diluted but alive. It tastes like frost and summer mixed together. You anchor the raft and sit, letting your hands rest on the still water. The warmth of the current rises through your palms. When you close your eyes, you feel them, the voices that once sang in the ice, now vast and distant. Merrick, Alara, the settlers, all of them. Not as words anymore, but as patterns, movements, ripples in the water and in the air. The sea carries them now, dispersed across the world. You whisper, "Can you hear me?" And though there is no voice, the sea shimmers, a long, slow pulse that could be an answer. You watch as small waves begin to form, overlapping gently. Each one catches the light, scattering it into 1,000 directions. The entire surface seems to glow from beneath, turning the sea into a living mirror. For a heartbeat, you see Frosthaven again, reflected perfectly, suspended in glass. The wooden roofs, the frozen river, the aurora above. Then it fades, leaving only the water. It's not loss. It's memory shifting form again. You lie back, the raft rocking gently. Above you, the sky burns faintly with northern color even this far south. Below you, the sea hums. Between the two, you float, part of both, claimed by neither. Would you call this an ending? Or just the moment when stories learn to travel without us? The air is warm now. Somewhere nearby, whales breach, their breath rising like pillars of mist. Each sound echoes like a note in a familiar song. You close your eyes, and for the first time, you don't feel the urge to go back. You've already arrived, not at a place, but at understanding. The sea is not a grave for memories. It's their language, the way the world speaks when no one is left to listen. The sun sinks lower, staining the horizon gold. The water mirrors it so perfectly that sky and sea become one, an infinite sheet of light. The surface shivers once, and for an instant, you see your reflection dissolve into it, scattering outward like pollen, like dust, like light. The hum fades. Not gone, just everywhere. You breathe slowly, letting the air fill you. The wind shifts. The raft drifts. The horizon glows. You understand now that nothing ever truly ends. It only spreads, becoming part of the larger rhythm. The world remembers itself through everything that lives and everything that lived. As night falls, the stars bloom above, mirrored below, until it feels like you're floating between two skies, both infinite, both listening. You whisper one last word, a name you don't even realize you've been holding all this time. Frosthaven. The sea answers by rippling once, quietly, carrying the word into every direction at once. Into clouds, into wind, into time itself. And then it stills. You lie back, eyes half closed, heartbeat slow, drifting on the sea of glass. The world breathes. And through that breath, you know you've never really left the north. It's in you now. And it always will be. Years pass. Seasons melt into one another. The north fades into rumor, and the world begins to warm. No one remembers when the first voice was heard, only that it came from the ocean one windless evening. Fishermen off the southern coast said the sea began to hum beneath their boats, low and steady, like a song half-formed. They called it the breath of the deep. At first no one believed them. But then more heard it, sailors, pearl divers, children playing by the shore. Always the same tone. Always that strange peace that followed. Some said it was the wind trapped beneath the waves. Others whispered that the sea had begun to dream. But a few, the quiet ones, the ones who listened longer than they spoke, started to write down what they heard. They built huts near the cliffs, their walls lined with shells that amplified the ocean's voice. At night, when the world slept, they pressed their ears to the walls and took notes by candlelight. Symbols, rhythms, sounds without language. They called themselves the listeners. One of them, a woman with silver hair and eyes that never seemed to blink, wrote, "It speaks in memories, not words. The sound carries warmth, sorrow, and a promise that the north endures." Another, younger, wrote, "The sea remembers a place that burned cold. A city of light buried in ice. It says the name again and again, but softly like a secret." They didn't know the word they were writing. They spelled it differently each time. Frosthaven, Frosthaven, Frosthaven. But they all agreed on one thing. It wasn't a warning. It was a remembrance. Soon, travelers began to visit the cliffs, drawn by stories of the singing sea. They'd stand in silence, listening. Some wept. Some smiled without knowing why. Some claimed they saw shapes in the surf. Faces, hands, golden petals drifting on the tide. A merchant wrote in his log, "The sea glows faintly at night. It hums like a sleeping heart. When I dipped my hand in, I felt warmth, not heat, but the kind that belongs to memory. I dreamed of snow afterward." And so a legend grew. A myth about a northern place that never died, where light learned compassion and cold learned forgiveness. A place where people spoke to the fire and the fire sang back. Would you have believed it, that your story would survive this way? Not carved in stone or ink, but carried by the water and the wind? The listeners kept their vigil. They built wind harps from bones and driftwood, tuning them to the sea's frequency. When the tide rose, the air filled with sound, deep, resonant, like a cathedral breathing. They said the world itself was remembering aloud. One night, during the longest calm in decades, the sea grew perfectly still. The listeners gathered, holding lanterns to the edge of the cliffs. The reflection was so smooth it looked like a mirror. And then across the horizon, faint lights appeared, soft, shimmering, green and gold. The aurora. Far from home, reborn over water. The old woman whispered, "It's calling again." The younger one nodded. Or perhaps it never stopped. They began to hum, quietly at first, then stronger, matching the rhythm of the waves. Dozens of voices joined, human and ocean, blending until the night itself vibrated with memory. And somewhere beneath the sound, a single word drifted through, clear, gentle, unending. Remember. When dawn came, the lights faded, and the sea returned to silence. But the listeners kept writing. They filled entire scrolls with symbols that no one else could read, sound made visible. They said it was not for them to understand, only to preserve. Years later, people would find their writings brittle and salt-stained. Scholars would argue whether the voices were myth or echo. But those who truly listened, late at night when the tide was low and the wind still, could hear it too. The faint hum, steady as breath. The whisper of snow, distant but alive. The world had forgotten Frosthaven the place, but not Frosthaven the memory. And in every drop of seawater, in every gust of wind off the northern current, the story waited, patient, endless, whispering to anyone who still knew how to be quiet. Centuries pass. Empires rise, cities turn to dust, and new stars claim the night. The sea remains, older than any crown, wiser than any faith. And still, on certain quiet evenings, it hums. Most don't hear it anymore. Too much noise, too many engines, too many hearts beating out of rhythm. But a few still listen, scholars, wanderers, dreamers. Among them, one woman, Dr. Ilara Voss, archivist of forgotten frequencies. She works in a tower that leans above the ocean. Glass walls, wind chimes, the sound of waves below. Her specialty isn't books, but sounds that no one can name. She records the world's hums, glaciers, old forests, coral reefs, all frequencies that seem alive. For years, the ocean has given her nothing. Then one night, the sea sings again. It begins with static, a faint vibration that shakes the glass panes of her study. She turns on her recorder, but the machine fails. The sound is beyond its range. She listens instead, bare ears against the cold window. Low at first, then deeper, a voice of water and memory. Not words. Not yet. A rhythm. Ilara closes her eyes. And somewhere beneath that sound, she hears a name. Frosthaven. She freezes. The word means nothing to her, and everything. She spends days tracing old maritime records, myths, archaeological maps. The name appears only in fragments, etched on sea stones, whispered in folklore from coastal tribes, recorded once by a 22nd century explorer who claimed the sea itself spoke in warmth. Weeks later, a fisherman delivers an object to her door, something he found caught in his net. A sealed cylinder carved from blackened wood, its surface covered with delicate markings. Inside, tightly rolled and perfectly preserved despite centuries of salt. One of the listeners scrolls. It hums when she touches it. Under light, the ink seems ordinary, dark, brittle lines. But when she whispers, the marks begin to glow. Slowly at first, then brighter, pulsing with her voice like veins remembering blood. Ilara gasps. The symbols aren't dead. They react, as though the words longed for human sound again. She begins her translation, not through language but resonance. She hums softly, testing tones. Each frequency lights a new pattern on the scroll, forming shapes like frozen waves or constellations. And then, for the first time in recorded history, the scroll sings back. A faint voice, layered, distant, neither male nor female, more like 1,000 echoes woven together. It speaks not in sentences but sensations. Warmth, snow, firelight, endurance, love. She understands without needing words. The voice shows her a place, towers of ice, glowing from within, people building in silence, the sound of a river carrying memory into the sea. When she opens her eyes, the walls of her tower shimmer with faint northern light. Ilara writes in her journal that night. The scrolls are alive. They remember sound. They remember belonging. The sea was never just water, it's a body of memory, a network of thought. Each wave is a syllable. Each tide a sentence. I think it's trying to finish a story. She builds an instrument, a resonance table, half wood, half glass, carved to mimic the curves of the scroll's frequency. When she places the scroll atop it and hums, the entire tower vibrates in response. The lights of the city below flicker. The air fills with color, gold, green, and faint blue, like aurora woven into smoke. The voice returns clearer now. It doesn't ask for attention. It asks for participation. Ilara begins to hum along. And as she does, she feels something impossible. The ocean hums back in harmony. For the first time in human history, the world and a person sing the same note. Outside, the tide rises, glowing faintly. People across the coast step out of their homes, drawn by the sound. Some recognize it. Some weep without knowing why. The legend has become alive again, carried not by rumor but by resonance. Ilara opens the window. The wind pours in cold, sharp, smelling faintly of snow. Far on the horizon, she sees it, faint streaks of green light. The aurora hundreds of miles south of where it should be. She writes her final note before dawn. The sea remembers everything that ever loved the light. And tonight it is remembering us back. When morning comes, her tower stands silent. The scroll rests open on the table, its markings still glowing faintly. From the cliffs below, people swear they can hear a hum rising from the sea, not loud but steady. The same tone the world was born with. The first thing people noticed was the quiet. Not the kind of quiet that follows catastrophe, but the kind that comes when the world finally exhales. Wind slowed. Engines paused. Even the restless hum of the city softened, as if every heartbeat waited for something unseen. Then came the resonance. It began in the harbors, the same low hum the old records described, the same tone that once followed Jonas Hale's raft out onto the sea of glass. Ships trembled gently at their moorings. Windows vibrated in unison. The air itself began to sing. Scientists called it a global acoustic anomaly. Children called it the lullaby of the deep. Poets said the sea had finally remembered the words it had been trying to say since the beginning of time. Every ocean, every river, every puddle reflected the same glow, soft, green-white, like moonlight seen through tears. People gathered along the shores, no longer frightened. They listened. And for the first time in centuries, humanity fell completely still. The sound wasn't language, not really. It was something older. A song without origin, but filled with meaning you could feel in your bones. Those who had studied the old listener scrolls recognized the rhythm immediately. It was Frosthaven's voice, the song of the north, reborn through water, memory, and time. In every harbor, someone began to hum along. At first a few, then hundreds, then thousands. Different languages, same tone. The world became a single instrument: wind, lungs, sea, heart. And when the song reached its peak, something extraordinary happened. The glow from the oceans rose into the sky. A million threads of light weaving together into a living aurora that stretched from pole to pole. Cities dimmed their lights to see it. The earth looked, for a few hours, like a lantern lit from within. Those who stood nearest the coast said they saw faces in the water. Not ghostly, not frightening, but familiar. Workers, wanderers, mothers, sons, reflections of every generation that had ever touched the sea. They didn't speak. They simply mouthed one word that everyone understood, even in silence. Remember. And then the voices changed. The sea didn't just echo anymore, it began to speak through human breath. Every person who joined the song found themselves humming a tone they had never known, but somehow recognized. It was their own memory braided with the world's. A single story shared across every living thing. The sound spread inland, up rivers, through rain clouds into the smallest streams. Forests resonated. Mountains echoed. Even the wind through glass towers hummed in harmony. It wasn't noise. It was balance. You stand by the shore, eyes closed, the salt air against your skin. You can feel Frosthaven in every drop of water, in the warmth that rises through your feet. Jonas Hale's journey, the listener's devotion, Ilara's discovery. All threads of the same tapestry, woven now into the song of the living earth. Would you have believed it? That a single man's silence in the snow would become the heartbeat of a world? The aurora brightens once more, filling the sky with light so vivid it seems to pulse with every breath. And then, slowly it begins to fade. The hum softens, the glow dims. But the quiet that follows isn't emptiness. It's completion. Because now the sea doesn't need to be heard. It's already part of everything that listens. You open your eyes. The tide laps at your boots, gentle, steady, endless. The horizon glows faintly gold. Somewhere out there, beneath waves and time, Frosthaven still hums. Not as a place, but as a promise. You whisper the word once more, letting it dissolve into the wind. Frosthaven. And the sea answers softly, by breathing back.